The transport vessel bucked and trembled as though caught in the grip of a colossal hand. Maya Chen pressed her small face against the cold window, watching the strange world below swell larger with each passing second. Her mother sat close beside her, clutching her father's hand so tightly her knuckles turned white. Fear rippled through the passengers like a silent wave. "It's going to be all right, sweetheart," her mother whispered, though her voice wavered with a brittle edge. Maya was only 8, but even she could hear the lie woven through the comfort. Adults often tried to soften the truth when danger was near. A shriek of tearing metal split the cabin, echoing like the cry of a dying beast. Then came darkness. Maya's eyes fluttered open. The world was silent, alien, wrong. Her skull throbbed, her arm throbbed worse, and the simple act of moving sent lightning through her body. She found herself sprawled in grass that shimmered purple under a light unlike Earth's. Above stretched a sky the color of molten amber, and in it burned 2 suns, one golden and vast, the other a small, pale companion. "Mom!" Her voice sounded so thin it vanished into the empty horizon. "Dad!" No answer. She tried to rise, but her left leg buckled beneath her. The sight of blood soaking through her torn pants filled her chest with a terror deeper than the crash. Tears spilled unbidden, blurring the alien sky. She cried until her throat rasped with thirst, but no water came. Dragging herself with aching arms, Maya found the shadow of a massive rock and collapsed beneath it. The sun's heat shimmered across the land until dusk fell sudden and merciless. The light drained away behind jagged mountains, leaving the world drowned in a freezing dark. She pulled her jacket tight around her tiny body, but the cold gnawed through fabric and skin. Her teeth chattered uncontrollably. And then, light. At first, she thought they were stars scattered low across the ground. But these lights moved. They drifted like great fireflies, glowing and dimming in rhythm, drawing nearer with each breath. Maya wanted to run, but her battered body betrayed her. All she could do was stare as the shapes emerged from the glow. They resembled people, but not entirely. Each figure stood no taller than Maya herself. Their forms seemed sculpted from crystal, radiant from within by a gentle, shifting light. One of them approached her shelter, its enormous eyes reflecting kindness despite their alien shape. From its throat came sounds like wind chimes stirred by a delicate breeze. Maya braced for pain, for cruelty, the things adults had always warned her about. But no harm came. The being simply regarded her in silence before turning to the others, its voice cascading into music. Soon, a circle of glowing figures gathered around her. They made no move to seize her. Instead, the nearest one brightened until its light glowed warm as a fire. For the first time since the crash, Maya's shivers began to ease. An elder among them, its inner glow muted with age, stepped closer. From a pouch at its side, it produced a vessel shaped like a bottle and held it out to her. Maya's thirst clawed at her, but hesitation gripped her tighter. Her parents had always warned her never to accept things from strangers. The elder seemed to understand. Slowly, it sipped from the vessel itself before offering it once more, eyes patient and unthreatening. Her lips trembled. Finally, she took the bottle and drank. The liquid tasted strange, metallic and sweet, yet nothing had ever felt so good sliding down her parched throat. She drank greedily until the elder's gentle hand withdrew it. Other beings returned with food, berries the color of bruised violets, hard-shelled nuts unlike anything from Earth. They sampled each before offering them. Hunger overpowered fear, and Maya devoured every morsel. Then the beings noticed her wounds. Their musical voices fell into somber note. They slipped away and returned with plants and cool, clay-like mud. With a tenderness beyond human words, they washed her injuries, spread the soothing paste upon her cuts, and wrapped her arm in fragrant leaves that calmed her pain. Maya wanted to thank them, but human words felt useless. She hummed the lullaby her mother always sang to her. The crystal beings tilted their heads, then hummed back in harmony. Soon, their strange voices and her fragile tune wove together into a song beneath the alien night. They stayed through the darkness, glowing softly, guarding her from cold and loneliness. Whenever she wept for her missing parents, they answered with tones of comfort. The second day pressed harder. Fever tugged at her body, leaving her weak and restless. The crystal beings offered food and water, though she could barely touch it. She drifted in and out of sleep, always waking to find them sitting near, watchful and patient. By the third day, a thunderous sound broke the silence, engines unmistakably human. Maya stirred, heart racing. Rescue ship. She tried to raise her arms, to wave, but strength failed her. The beings heard it too. For a moment, she feared they would vanish into the wilderness. After all, humans had come to mine this world, and surely resentment lingered. Yet the beings did not flee. Instead, they flared bright, voices rising like a chorus, guiding the rescuers closer. The vessel landed with a roar. Figures spilled from its hatch. Maya's father leapt down before it had even settled, her mother rushing after him. "Maya!" her father shouted, eyes wide. He froze as he caught sight of the crystal beings clustered around his daughter. For an instant, time itself seemed to pause. The elder being, the one who had first given her water, rose slowly. It gazed at Maya's parents, then back at her, and released a sound as soft as falling glass. It stepped aside. Maya tried to run but faltered. Her father rushed forward, careful yet desperate. The circle of beings parted, granting him passage. "Are you hurt, sweetheart?" her mother asked, kneeling beside her. "They helped me," Maya whispered hoarsely. "They kept me warm. They gave me food and water. They never left me." Her parents turned their eyes to the beings, and something in their fear dissolved. These aliens had saved their child, asking nothing in return. Maya's father rose to his feet and placed a hand over his heart. He bowed his head. A gesture simple, but filled with gratitude. The elder understood. It mirrored the bow. As rescuers lifted Maya onto a stretcher, she looked back. The beings glowed gently, watching until she was safe. She raised her good hand in farewell. That wave, small, fragile, innocent, would echo across history. The crystal beings had shown mercy when none was expected, compassion when none was owed. Humanity would remember. Maya drifted into sleep in her father's arms as the ship lifted through the orange sky. The crystal beings stood silent, gazing upward until the engines faded to nothing. Then they turned back to their quiet lives, unaware they had just forged humanity's most powerful bond. Dr. Elena Chen sat upright in her hospital bed, her daughter's small hand wrapped in hers. Maya healed more each day, yet Elena's mind circled endlessly around what had happened. Her little girl had survived 3 endless days on a hostile world, and it had not been human hands that kept her alive. Dr. Elena Chern still struggled to grasp it. Strange crystalline beings had stood guard over her daughter, shielding her from the cold, feeding her, and sharing their water. "Tell me again about the crystal people," Elena whispered, her voice low and tender. Maya's small fingers squeezed her mother's hand. "They were nice, Mommy. They glowed like nightlights and made pretty music. When I was cold, they warmed me. When I was hungry, they gave me food." The door slid open, and James Chen stepped inside. His uniform bore the quiet authority of his rank in the colonial navy, and his expression carried the weight of every detail he had gathered from the rescue team. He sat on Maya's other side and brushed a stray lock of hair from her forehead. "They took pictures," he said, pulling out his tablet. "Do you want to see them?" Maya nodded eagerly. Images filled the screen, dozens of radiant figures huddled around the very rock where Maya had sought refuge. They were small, fragile in appearance, yet they had formed an unbroken circle around one vulnerable human child. "They're called the Vorthak," James explained. "They've lived on that world for thousands of years. Most assume they're primitive, but they're far more intelligent than people think. They just choose to live quietly." Elena stared at the images, her throat tight. "They saved our baby's life." "Yes," James said softly. "And they didn't have to. We've been mining their world for years, scarring the land, making their lives harder. They had every reason to turn away from Maya, but they didn't. Maya studied the pictures with wide eyes. I want to see them again. I want to thank them properly. Elena made her decision. Then we will. The first call she made was to her sister, a journalist for the Colonial News Network. She shared Maya's story and the images that proved it. Within hours, the tale blazed across human space. Audiences everywhere saw the photographs. Tiny luminous figures standing guard through frozen nights, offering their water, sharing their food, never abandoning the frightened child who had fallen from the sky. The story cut straight into humanity's heart. Messages poured in from across the colonies. These beings are heroes. They're better than most humans I know. Someone must thank them properly. We owe them everything. Momentum built faster than anyone expected. Elena and James resolved to return to the Vorthak homeworld, known to humans as Kepler 442c, but carrying a melodic name in the Vorthak tongue. They intended to thank the beings who had saved Maya, and perhaps understand them better. But they were not alone. Ships began arriving in orbit almost immediately. Not warships, but small private craft filled with families inspired by Maya's story. They came bearing gifts: food, medicine, blankets, toys for Vorthak children. The mining companies were furious. These are just animals, one supervisor scoffed. Why is everyone treating them like legends? That contempt only fueled human outrage. Each day brought more visitors. Doctors volunteered to care for Vorthak ailments. Teachers came to learn their language and traditions. Artists painted their crystalline beauty under the twin suns. 2 weeks after the rescue, the Chens finally arrived. Maya was still frail, but she refused to be left behind. At the spaceport, they were met not by a delegation but by hundreds of ordinary people, families, workers, travelers, all drawn by the same impulse to honor those who had shown compassion. The Vorthak were overwhelmed. They had lived in quiet obscurity for generations. Now, suddenly, thousands of humans sought their friendship. Yet the humans approached with respect, and the Vorthak slowly opened their trust. For Maya, one meeting mattered most. Jeksai, the elder who had first offered her water, awaited her. His crystalline body shimmered beneath the suns, casting fractured rainbows across the ground. When Maya limped forward, his glow deepened, brightened, grew warm. She wrapped her arms around him as gently as her small strength allowed. His body was hard and delicate all at once, and she feared she might harm him. But Jeksai only answered with the familiar chime of his voice, the same sound that had comforted her in the freezing nights. Tears welled in the eyes of every human who witnessed it. But not all hearts were moved. The Galactic Trade Consortium had already marked Kepler 442c for exploitation. Beneath its surface lay rare crystals worth fortunes, enough to power entire fleets. Contracts had been signed, machines prepared. They envisioned the planet carved hollow, stripped bare. Now, thousands of humans blocked their path. Families, doctors, teachers, ordinary people who would not abandon the Vorthak. The consortium pressed the human government, demanding their rights. These creatures are insignificant, they argued. Primitive, not even sentient by council standards. Their crystals could power 100 worlds. You cannot let sentimentality stand in the way of progress. But humanity's reply was not what they expected. In the heart of the Galactic Council chamber, Admiral Sarah Okafor, commander of the Colonial Defense Force, took the floor. Behind her, vast screens displayed images of Maya and the Vorthak, frozen in the act of protection. Members of the Council, she began, her voice steady, resonant. We gather to address a matter of honor. She told the story plainly. A lost child, alone in a hostile world, saved not by technology or soldiers but by the compassion of fragile, glowing beings. She spoke of food shared, water given, warmth offered without thought of reward. They expected nothing, Okafor said. They asked for nothing. They simply saw a child in need and chose to help. Such compassion is rare and precious. Some representatives shifted impatiently. To them, kindness was no currency. Why were the humans so consumed by this? Okafor's gaze swept the chamber. You may wonder why this matters to us. Let me explain. Humans remember their debt. All of them. And when we encounter beings capable of such selfless compassion, we will not abandon them. They deserve protection. Silence followed. Then she delivered the declaration. Therefore, Earth and her colonies place the Vorthak under our protection. Any aggression against them, any attempt to despoil their world, will be regarded as an act of war against humanity. The chamber erupted in chaos. Voices shouted over one another in shock. No species had ever claimed guardianship over another for such a reason. The consortium's delegate rose, scales rattling with fury. You cannot do this. We hold legal mining rights. These creatures are not even recognized as sentient. Okafor's reply was quiet but unyielding. The Vorthak are under our protection. That is final. Harm them, and you answer to us. As the council dissolved into uproar, Okafor sent her message across the stars, to Earth, to the colonies, to every human outpost. The Vorak protected one of ours when she was helpless and alone. Now we protect all of theirs. This is who we are. This is what we do. Those were the words broadcast across human space, a promise sealed in steel and fire. Back on Kepler 442c, Maya's world was far smaller, filled with sunlight, gardens, and laughter. She sat among her crystal-skinned friends, carefully shaping the musical tones of their language. Her voice cracked and wobbled, but the Vorak encouraged her with patient harmonies. She did not yet understand that her rescue had shifted the balance of galactic politics. To her, there was only joy, learning songs, chasing shimmering lights in crystalline groves, while her parents met with Jexai to plan schools and hospitals. A child saved by kindness was blissfully unaware that her story was remaking the stars themselves. Far away, in the war chambers of the hegemony, claws raked against metal. War Marshal Kravex slammed his fist against the table, the impact jolting every leader seated around him. His blood-red eyes burned with fury as he glared at the reports streaming from his scouts. Humans, he growled. They believe one child's tears give them the right to command the galaxy. Around him, the hegemony's predators bristled. These were conquerors, species who had built their empires on blood and fear. The notion that weak creatures deserved protection for an act of kindness was laughable. The crystals on that world are worth more than entire star systems, hissed Admiral Thexera, serrated teeth gleaming like knives. We cannot let the humans steal that wealth. General Vakran's compound eyes clicked as he added, and worse, it sets a precedent. If weaker species believe they can cower under human protection, the natural order will collapse. Kravex studied the tactical display. The human fleet guarding Kepler 442c was formidable but not overwhelming. 3 battle groups, perhaps 40 ships. The hegemony had defeated larger forces. We will teach them a lesson, he declared. They cannot protect everyone. They cannot be everywhere. When they fail, the galaxy will see that their promises mean nothing. The plan took shape, a brutal strike against the Vorak homeworld. They would cloak the attack as a police action, claiming humans had hidden weapons among the Vorak. A lie, but one useful enough to mask their intentions. They would strike quickly before reinforcements could arrive. What the hegemony did not know was that the humans had anticipated exactly this. On the bridge of the battleship Terra's Wrath, Commander James Chun studied the sensor array in grim silence. His daughter was safe on Earth now, but when the call came to defend her protectors, he had volunteered without hesitation. "Sir, multiple hyperspace signatures detected," reported his tactical officer. 6 heavy ships, hegemony design. James nodded, calm as stone. Intelligence had warned them this day would come. To the predators, humanity's loyalty to the Vorak looked like weakness. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Signal all human civilians on the surface to evacuate," James ordered. then broadcast on all channels. The warning carried across the void. This is Commander James Chen of the Terra's Wrath. You are approaching a world under Earth's protection. Turn back now or face the consequences. On the flagship of the Hegemony Fleet, War Marshal Kravex barked laughter at the transmission. One human thinks he can intimidate us all? Show him the meaning of power. Their ships tore from hyperspace in battle formation, weapons blazing to life. They had come with enough firepower to flatten a planet. Surely the humans would retreat. Instead, space itself erupted. 3 full human fleets burst from hyperspace in perfect coordination, surrounding the enemy on 3 sides. The Terra's Wrath led the center line. On the left, Admiral Sarah Okafor's flagship Dawn's Promise advanced like a blade of light. On the right, Admiral Kim's Righteous Fury closed the formation. Over 100 human warships had come to defend a single crystal world. Kravex stared at his display in disbelief. How did they arrive so quickly? How did they know the exact moment of our strike? He did not realize that humans had been shadowing the hegemony for weeks, ships poised along the border, waiting for this move. Humanity had been very, very angry. Admiral Okafor's voice crackled across the void, sharp as thunder. You have threatened those who saved a human child when they owed us nothing. You have made a grave mistake. The Hegemony fleet was mighty, but now it was outnumbered, surrounded, and unprepared. Kravex knew the wise course was retreat. But pride burned hotter than reason. Attack, he roared. Show them the Hegemony does not kneel. The void ignited. The battle was swift, brutal, and precise. Human ships struck like a coordinated pack, executing maneuvers they had drilled endlessly. While the Hegemony scrambled to form battle lines, humanity's fleets sliced through their ranks, crippling engines, shattering weapons arrays. And yet, their methods shocked their enemies. Humans targeted weapons, not crew quarters. They disabled ships rather than obliterating them. When Hegemony vessels surrendered, the humans shielded them from further fire. On Kravex's flagship, flames licked across ruined consoles. Shields had failed, engines were gone, weapons silenced. Surrounded, he braced for the final strike. Instead, the screen flickered, revealing James Chen. His face was weary, resolute. War Marshal Kravex, he said evenly, your fleet is defeated. Order your ships to stand down, and we will render medical aid to your wounded. Kravex snarled in disbelief. You would help us? After we sought to destroy you. James's gaze never wavered. The beings you tried to kill once saved my daughter when she was dying. They taught me that kindness is stronger than cruelty. I will not become the monster you expected. The war marshal looked across his shattered bridge. Officers groaned in pain, consoles sparked, the smell of scorched metal filled the air. The humans could have ended them. Instead, they offered mercy. For the first time in his life, Kravex felt something foreign. Shame. Signal all vessels, he said at last, voice heavy. Stand down. Accept human aid. The aftermath stunned the galaxy. Human medical ships fanned through the wreckage, treating enemy wounded with the same devotion they gave their own. Engineers repaired crippled hegemony craft, enough for them to limp home. On a neutral station, Admiral Okafor faced the defeated commanders. She could have demanded territory, fleets, tribute. Instead, she spoke only one condition. You will leave the Vorak unharmed. You will never threaten them again. In return, we will act as though this battle never happened. It was not conquest. It was principle. And the galaxy would never forget it. War Marshal Kravex narrowed his eyes at the human admiral across the table. That's all? No demands for tribute, no territories seized, no hostages taken. Admiral Sarah Okafor met his gaze, calm and unyielding. We want only this, that the Vorak remains safe. That is why we came. That is all that matters. The silence stretched as the hegemony fleet limped away from the battlefield, broken but alive. Word spread like wildfire. Humanity had stood against one of the most fearsome military alliances in known space, and done so not for power, not for profit, but for a fragile people of living crystal who had once sheltered a single child. Some species whispered it was madness. Others called it the most honorable act the galaxy had ever seen. On Kepler 442c, the Vorak elders felt the echoes of the battle through their communion with the planet's crystalline heart. Jexai and his peers stood in the gardens as vibrations rippled through the crystal towers. They knew lives had been lost above their skies, all because they had chosen to save one small human. "Have we brought disaster upon them?" one younger Vorak asked, his glow dim with fear. Jexai's radiance pulsed softly, carrying the weight of ages. "No, child. We have revealed them as they truly are. And the galaxy is better for having seen it." Above, human warships maintained their vigil, silent guardians against the dark. Commander James Chin looked down from the Terra's wrath at the crystal gardens where his daughter had once lain dying. Now they were sanctified ground, forever protected. The test was over. Humanity had been measured, and had not failed. The galaxy would never be the same. 20 years passed. The galaxy grew accustomed to the sight of human ships patrolling Vorak skies. To outsiders, it seemed mere protection. But the bond between the two peoples had become something far deeper. Maya Chern, now 28, wore the uniform of a lieutenant in the Colonial Defense Force. Most of her assignments brought her back to Haven, once known only as Kepler 442c. The name the humans had chosen spoke for itself. She spoke the musical language of the Vorak almost flawlessly. She had walked their gardens, learned their songs, and absorbed their way of seeing existence as resonance and memory. Today, she strolled among the crystalline groves with Jexai, her oldest friend. The elder's glow had faded with age, but his mind was sharp, and he had something to share. "Star Child," he said, his voice like a chord struck from a harp, "it is time you knew the truth of who we are." The name still stirred her heart. Since the day she fell into their care, the Vorak had called her Star Child. To them, she was more than a survivor, she was a symbol. "What truth, Elder?" Maya asked, kneeling beside him on the warm crystalline ground. Jexai's light pulsed with memory. "Your people believe we are simple beings who acted out of compassion. This is true, but not the whole truth." He gestured toward the towering crystal spires surrounding them. Each hummed faintly with its own tone when the wind stirred. "These are not mere stones, Maya-chan. They are memories. Within them lies the history of this galaxy. We are the keepers of all that has been forgotten." He pressed his hand against one great crystal. It flared, and images blossomed in its depths. Ancient fleets of fire and steel. Civilizations flourishing, then falling. Worlds consumed by war. Species erased until only echoes remained. "We have seen it countless times," Jexai continued. "Young species rise, wield their power, conquer in the name of order. But their hunger for dominion consumes them. They grow cruel, they make enemies of all, and in the end they fall. The cycle repeats, again and again." Maya's stomach turned as the visions unfolded. Planets burned. Chains bound entire species. Splendor reduced to ash. "And humans?" she asked softly. "Are we just another turn of the wheel?" Jexai's glow flickered, amused. "Every empire believes itself different. The Cathar thought so when they ruled 1,000,000 worlds. The Zorkan believed it when they enslaved half the galaxy. Each declared themselves the exception. All proved otherwise." Her heart sank. "So we'll become monsters too?" "Perhaps," Jexai admitted. "But when we found you broken in our garden, we saw something rare. Your people feel responsibility for others that cannot be explained by logic or gain. You protect not for profit, but because it is right." The crystal shifted again, showing scenes from recent decades. Humans sharing rations with alien refugees, doctors tending to wounded enemies, engineers rebuilding shattered worlds they had no stake in. "This," Jexai said, "is almost unseen in our long memory. A handful of species once bore this gift. Most perished young, too gentle for a harsh cosmos. But you endure. Then why save me at all? Maya pressed. If you feared we were no different from the rest? Jexai's glow warmed. Because we hope. Because even if you were not, no child should die alone and afraid. Some things are right regardless of consequence. Understanding struck her. She was not just the child they had saved. She had been their test, their measure of humanity. And now, she asked. Now, Jexai said, we offer something never given before. A covenant between our peoples. We will share the wisdom gathered across millions of years. Knowledge of how civilizations rise, how they fall, how they might endure. In return, you will help us guide the younger races, so they need not repeat the old mistakes. The weight of it pressed into Maya's chest. The Vorak were offering humanity the very archives of the galaxy, the lessons of civilizations long turned to dust. Why us? She whispered. What makes you think we won't twist that wisdom into sharper tools for conquest? Because of what your people did after the battle with the hegemony, Jexai replied. You could have broken them, taken their worlds, enslaved their kind. Instead, you healed their wounded and sent them home with only a warning. That was not the action of a species doomed to repeat the cycle. Maya looked around the garden with new eyes. The crystals were not just monuments, they were libraries, warnings, testaments. Within them lived the memory of everything the galaxy had gained and lost. Jexai's glow dimmed, his voice almost reverent. And there is more. We are not the only ancients who remain. Others endure, hidden in the dark, watching, waiting. If humans prove worthy of our trust, the others will reveal themselves in time. Then perhaps this galaxy will become something new, something greater than the endless cycle of conquest and ruin. Jexai's words lingered as Maya sat quietly in the crystal garden. She thought of the fleets that now patrolled Vorak skies, the families who had chosen to live here, the countless people who had risked everything because luminous beings had once cared for a lost child. I need to tell my superiors, she said at last. Of course, Jexai replied, his glow flickering faintly. But remember this, Star Child. The covenant we offer is not merely between governments. It is between peoples, between hearts. Leaders may accept or deny. But the bond was forged the night we found you in our garden, and no decree can erase it. 3 months later, history was written in light. The great crystal amphitheater at the heart of Haven filled with sound and color as humans and Vorak gathered together. Representatives from every human colony stood shoulder to shoulder, while ambassadors from dozens of species filled the galleries, eager to witness the unprecedented event. Maya stood beside Admiral Sarah Okafor, her heart pounding as the Admiral signed the covenant on behalf of humanity. The document shimmered across 2 forms. Written in human script and inscribed in Vorak harmonic notation, each line more like music than words. It was beautiful, alien, and binding. The terms shattered precedent. The Vorak would share their accumulated wisdom, knowledge of governance, of survival, of the countless ways civilizations had risen and fallen. And in return, humanity pledged to extend its shield not only to the Vorak, but to any species the Vorak deemed worthy of preservation. We are no longer only guardians, Admiral Okafor declared as she passed the signed covenant to Jexai. We are students, teachers, partners in building something better. The elder's reply rang through the crystals themselves, the amphitheater alive with resonance as his words were translated into every tongue. The cycle of rise and fall has ruled this galaxy for too long. Perhaps now it is time to break the wheel. After the ceremony, Maya walked with Jexai through the same garden where, as a child, she had once lain broken and alone. The elder's glow was faint now, the final dimming of a life that had stretched for centuries. Do you think we'll succeed? She asked softly. Do you believe humans can truly be different? Jexai's light pulsed with serenity. I do not know, Star Child. But for the first time in my long existence, I have hope. Above them, Human and Vorak ships patrolled in tandem, weaving a lattice of protection across the night sky. What had begun as kindness to a single child had become a covenant destined to reshape the stars. The treaty was signed. The real work was only beginning. And soon, the galaxy would learn what happened when ancient wisdom met human resolve, when civilizations that had hidden in shadow for eons finally stepped into the light. Half a century passed. The galaxy was transformed. On the bridge of the Guardian flagship Eternal Promise, Admiral Maya Chinvorak stood gazing through the massive viewing window at the river of stars beyond. At 58, silver threaded her hair, and lines traced the years of command across her face. But her eyes still carried the same spark of wonder she had held as a child staring up from alien grass. Her name told the story, Chinvorak. No human had ever been formally adopted into a Vorak clan before Maya. And no Vorak had ever chosen to carry a human name. She was the living bridge between two peoples, and through her, that bridge had grown into an alliance spanning the galaxy. Admiral, called Commander Torres from the comm station. We're receiving a distress call from the Kepler 438 system. The Mallory are under attack. Maya turned, instantly focused. The Mallory were a young species, barely a century into the stars. Furred and gentle, they looked almost like children's toys, but their minds were sharp, and their compassion genuine. They reminded her of the Vorak. "What's the threat?" she asked. "Pirates, ma'am. A hegemony splinter group. They're demanding tribute from the colonies. The Mallory are pacifists. They have no defenses." Maya's mouth tightened. The old hegemony had long since learned respect after their defeat 5 decades ago. But predators still rose in fragments, clinging to their old ways. "Signal the fleet," she ordered. "All Guardian ships, prepare for hyperspace jump. And broadcast a warning to the pirates." She stepped to the central array. Her image would soon stretch across systems. Behind her, banners of 17 species rippled in the air currents of the bridge, each one a civilization that had joined the Covenant through acts of compassion, courage, or mercy. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of history. "This is Admiral Maya Chinvorak of the Guardian Fleet. You are threatening a species under our protection. Withdraw from Mallory space within 1 hour. If you refuse, we will remove you." The pirate leader answered almost immediately, his face filling the screen. His fanged mouth split in a sneer, eyes burning red. "Guardian Fleet," he spat. "You humans think you rule the stars. We are not afraid of your soft hearts and empty words." Maya's expression never changed. "Then you are about to learn something new." The Guardian Fleet leapt into hyperspace. This was no longer only humanity's armada. Vorak crystal vessels sailed beside human battleships, their hulls resonating with harmonic weapons that disarmed without killing. Mallory hospital ships drifted behind, prepared to heal both friend and foe. Even ships from reformed hegemony worlds had joined the defense. This was the Covenant, alive in steel and light, an alliance forged not by conquest, but by shared values. The pirates, 20 ships strong, expected an easy victory. Instead, they emerged from hyperspace to find themselves outnumbered 5-1 by the most advanced coalition fleet in known space. Maya appeared on their comms once more. "Pirates of the Crimson Claw. You still have time. Surrender now. We will not destroy your ships, nor harm your crews. But we will not allow you to harm the Mallory." The leader barked a laugh. "You offer mercy before the battle even begins. You are weaker than I thought." Maya's eyes narrowed. "No. We are stronger than you can imagine. Because we fight not for conquest, but for protection. And that makes all the difference." The battle that followed would echo through legend. The Guardian Fleet moved as one, ships anticipating each other's actions with perfect harmony, striking not as an empire, but as a chorus. Human vessels struck with precision, disabling pirate ships in swift, surgical strike. Vorak harmony weapons rippled through enemy systems, scrambling electronics without ending lives. When escape pods burst free, Guardian rescue craft were already there, guiding them to safety. In less than an hour, the Crimson Claw was undone. Not a single crew member lay dead, though their ships, broken and battered, could fight no more. The pirate leader, snarling and defeated, soon stood on the bridge of the Eternal Promise. He had braced himself for torment, for execution. Instead, he was offered a chair and a steaming cup of coffee. "Why?" he demanded, confusion etched into his scarred face. "Why do you protect strangers? Why spare enemies who would slit your throats without hesitation? What do you gain from this?" Admiral Maya Chinvorak looked out through the great viewing window at the Mallory homeworld below, where millions of gentle beings could rest easy because the Guardians stood between them and destruction. 50 years ago," she said softly, "I was a child, dying alone on an alien world. Beings I had never met chose to save me. They had every reason to despise humans, every reason to walk away. But they didn't. They saw someone who needed help, and they helped." She turned back, her eyes steady. "That act of kindness changed everything. It taught us that power and profit are not the highest measures of a people. It showed us that strength is the responsibility to protect, not exploit." The pirate stared. "You're telling me this entire Guardian fleet exists, because some aliens were kind to you when you were a child?" "Yes," Maya answered simply. "And because we never forgot what that meant." When he and his surviving crew were released, their vessels were patched just enough to limp to the nearest station. As they departed, Maya sent the message all defeated foes received. "The galaxy is changing. The old ways of conquest and cruelty are dying. Find another path, and the Guardian fleet will welcome you as friends." Some listened. Former raiders, once hardened by violence, became some of the most devoted guardians of all. They knew better than anyone the value of mercy, and the miracle of second chances. Back on Haven, the heart of Guardian space, an ancient Vorak sat in the gardens where it had all begun. Jexai's glow was little more than a flicker now, his once strong harmonies reduced to faint whispers. Still, Maya visited him whenever she returned from her missions. She found him in the same place where she had once hidden as a child, afraid and alone. "Elder," she said gently, kneeling beside him, "the Mallory are safe. The pirates have been driven off." Jexai's glow pulsed faintly, but with contentment. Another species shielded. Another kindness repaid. The galaxy grows brighter with each act. Maya looked around at the gardens. They were no longer tended only by Vorak. Beings from a dozen species worked side by side, their children laughing together beneath the twin suns. Human children played tag with Vorak younglings. Mallory cubs tumbled across the grass, their giggles harmonizing with crystalline chimes. Former enemies planted side by side, building something neither conquest nor empire had ever achieved. "Did you ever imagine it would grow this vast?" Maya asked softly. "I hoped," Jexai whispered. "But hope and reality are often far apart. You humans, you made real what we only dared to dream." His light flickered weakly. Maya felt the weight of time pressing close. He had lived long enough to see the galaxy transformed, but even Vorak could not last forever. "Will it endure?" she asked, her voice trembling. "After we are gone, will others remember why we began this?" Jexai's glow steadied one final time, warm and resolute. "Look around you, Star Child. This is no longer about us. It is about them." He gestured faintly toward the children laughing in the gardens, toward the starships above, crewed by beings of many worlds, toward the crystal formations that now stored not just memory but hope. "They will remember," he whispered, "because we taught them that kindness is not weakness, that protection is not folly, that some truths matter more than power." Then his light dimmed and faded, passing peacefully into silence beneath the amber glow of Haven's setting suns. Maya sat with him until the last glow faded from the garden, tears tracing her cheeks. The next morning brought another call for aid. A new name filled her ears. Thyori, a people she had never heard of, on the far rim of known space. They were being hunted by predators who thought might still ruled. Maya read the signal, then looked up at the statue that dominated Haven's capital square. It showed a small child, surrounded by luminous Vorak, the moment when everything changed. "Signal the fleet," she ordered quietly. "All Guardian vessels, prepare for hyperspace. We have beings to protect." Engines roared to life. The Guardian fleet surged into the stars. Humans, Vorak, Mallory, and dozens of others bound together not by conquest, but by covenant. Maya thought of the chain that had led them here. One child, one desperate night, one act of compassion. From that spark had come a fire that now lit the galaxy. Somewhere out there, the vulnerable waited. But they would not be left alone in the dark. Because half a century ago, luminous beings had saved a human child. And humanity had never forgotten what that meant. Closing message. And so, the story of Maya Chun and the Vorak reminds us that a single act of kindness can reshape worlds, and that compassion can be the strongest force in the universe. Milky Way, if you enjoyed living in this world, traveling through the stars, witnessing battles fought for honor, and exploring the fragile beauty of trust, make sure to subscribe for more stories like this. Speech Balloons, share your thoughts in the comments. What kind of sci-fi worlds inspire you most? Thumbs up, don't forget to like and share this story with others who love epic tales of hope and wonder. Rocket and tell us, what story would you like to see next? The galaxy is vast, and together we'll keep exploring it.